Hello, everyone, and welcome to Unique Peace, special Wednesday edition. And I'm Janice. I am the Quiet Healer, Reiki Master Teacher, and Intuitive Medium here on Long Island. And I'm so glad you have joined us tonight. Tonight, I will be joined by Eileen Der Aris. She is a life coach specializing in adolescence and helping adolescents between the ages of 17 and 19 prepare for the real world. So join me in welcoming Eileen. Sorry, I called you Ellen. I apologize.
A lot of people have done that since I was a kid, and they would do attendance in school. I don't know if they still do that. And they would call my name if there was a substitute. I was always Ellen. But you got it right. I am Eileen. There's one other thing I wanted to correct, that I work with young people between the ages of 17 and 29. So
okay.
A bigger span
range.
That's all I wanted to share. Hi.
Hi. So I would like to know how you got into life coaching, and specifically what drew you to adolescents and young adults.
I'd be happy to share. So for life coaching, I went and saw a life coach and thought, what the heck is a life coach? And went and saw one. I did a group with her, and then I did individual coaching with her. And she said, Eileen, you'd really love this. I said, you know what? I think I will. So I went through a whole coaching program for 9 months, and I worked my butt off and loved it to death. First time I went to school and loved it from top to bottom. And then I was initially working with parents. And it kind of builds into a lot of what you're working with. I was working with parents because I was seeing how parents need to really do more self-care in order to be able to be the best people they can be. But the irony of that, Janice, is that they didn't want to hire me to take care of themselves. They wanted to hire me for their children. Isn't that what we all do, right? We spend so much time, and we're great parents. But at the same time, if you don't pour, you've heard the if you can't pour from an empty cup.
Yep, I actually use it in my program.
right. So you're going to do all that. So then, being real for a second, my own children at the time, my son was in high school and my daughter was in college. And my daughter started experiencing some deep depression and anxiety. And it was so rough. It was so rough. And I was coaching at that point, the parents, and I was having trouble managing. I mean, it's our kids. And when they're not well, it's hard for us to be well. I popped myself right into therapy because of that same thing. If we don't take care of ourselves, how are we going to be there for them? Pulled her out of college. It got worse. I felt like I was on the edge of a rabbit hole with my arms inside holding her so she didn't slip away. She said she would not hurt herself, thank God. But that's how it felt. But I was there for her. She really, really got herself back up. It took some time. She went to school. She graduated. And I said to myself, this age level needs help.
They do.
Yeah. While all this was going on, I found my son on the floor next to his bed within the year. And I said, what happened? Did you fall off your bed? He said, no, I don't know. I don't know. I just can't. That was when I made the decision, by the way, to go to therapy. But like I said, our young people are having such a hard time. The world today is just so much more challenging for them than it was for so many of us at our age. And I wanted to be there for them. I want young people to learn to believe in themselves, to see the value of themselves, to learn to understand themselves so they can get to a place where they can feel more centered and then figure out what it is they want to do next in life.
And that is beautiful, because if I were to look back, I'm a pretty driven individual, so I'm a rarity. But at that age, we really don't know what we want to be when we grow up. We just pick something. We pick what we think we like, and then we go to school for it. And it may or not be what we like. I have friends that majored in meteorology but work at a bank.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a difficult age. I'm like my son. He's already told me doesn't want to go to college. And he thought I would be upset with him. And it's like, then you're doing something vocational. You're going to do something after college, carpentry, electronic, electric. He wants to do electricity, but you're doing something. I think his head was on his swivel. Like, you're still going to make me do something? I'm like, yeah, you still need to make a living, honey. You don't want to spend $40,000 a year to go to school? That's fine. Thank you for telling me now. But pick something else then. But I mean, as parents, as you know, it's hard to guide them, especially when they don't know who they are yet. Right. And like I said, I'm a rarity because I was driven. I knew what I wanted to do and I did it. I've seen my own son's friends. I was like, I don't know. I'll go to college and do what? And, most of them will say business. I remember when business was your fallback. Now it's everybody's go-to.
It's true. It's true. Very interesting, but it's true. You know what it is that our young people are growing up later today than we did. And a lot of that has to do with the way the world is today. It has to do with social media, of course, and it has to do with the fact that we have a phone that texts. And Janice and I were just talking before the show started that, how we can keep track of our kids if we choose to do that and whatnot. And a lot of it is a really great thing. So I'm not knocking it. However, by having that connection with our young people, they have their safety and they are able to connect with us, but they grow up later. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm saying it's different. But that's why when we tell our 18 or 21-year-olds, okay, now it's time to figure out what you want to do. And they don't have a lot of the same maturity and experience that we might have had at 18 and 21 years old. They didn't, when we were in school and we got a bad grade on a test, we would have to work through it. We'd be upset. We would talk to the teacher. We would vent with our friends. Today, if that happens, you just text your mom, be like, oh my gosh, I got a bad grade. So you had to work through these things on your own. When you did something wrong and your ride didn't show up when you were really supposed to be here, you had to get crafty and figure out what to do. Today, yes. We know exactly where our children are. So it causes them to grow up more today in their 20s, where we did more of our maturity in our teens. So that's why one of the reasons anyway, that we're seeing a lot of people making their decisions as to what they want to do later. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And it makes a lot of sense. And I guess I'm kind of old school in my parenting. I'm like a hybrid where I meet him where he's at, but I see my parents, my old school parents coming in, and it's like, well, if you want that, you have to come up with half the money. And it's like, okay, now how do I get the money? And if you want X, Y, Z, you have to do your chores. Well, my friends don't have chores. I'm not their mom. Johnny doesn't have to do chores. I'm not Johnny's mom. I'm your mom. You have chores. Let me introduce you to the vacuum cleaner. I give him that responsibility because I do observe so many kids not knowing and not having life skills. I mean, I know my patience level, so I actually paid for him to go to cooking camp. I paid for 2 weeks of cooking camp because I know my patience level. He would never have learned how to cook. Now he knows the basics and I can trust him, so I can teach him more in the kitchen. But those life skills, like you said, we have the phone and that's what we're doing. And I didn't have that. We had to pay phone. We had to make sure we had a quarter anywhere we went.
That was the worst feeling, though, when you didn't, and you were digging around the bottom of your bag. There's got to be one in there.
One in there. Oh, right. You find a lifesaver.
Or who knows what else we used to find in our bags. But those are all the trials and tribulations, like you're saying. And what I hear you also saying is that you're giving your young people the opportunity to have to learn things, to have to try to work hard to get to something that they want. So they're building those skills for later, which is fabulous. Some parents have different frames of thought. They feel as if maybe when they grew up, they didn't have something, so they want their young people to have it. Parents are well-meaning. I think we spend a lot of time parent bashing. I think we spend too much time with, you're a helicopter mom, you're a snowplow mom, you're a this mom. Whatever. Let's take all the labels and put them
off. Yeah.
And just say, okay, my young person is like this right now, and I wish I could help them with this. And so giving parents ideas and ways of helping their children, and like you're saying, giving them opportunities to learn things on their own. And here's the biggest one of all, Janice, that's so hard. We have to let our kids fail. Oh, like that's
Hard.
the hardest thing.
That's the worst.
No, who wants to watch our kids be upset? I was just telling Janice before that my 26-year-old is about to buy a house, right? I don't know. She's not watching this, right? I don't know if I 100% agree with her pick. I think she knows that too. But who am I? I'm mom. Yes, I've had more experience. Let her figure it out. Let her move through it. Because when we look, and this is one of the things I want to talk with you about later with peace, one of the things that we have to do, or we can choose to do, is believe that even when we make a decision and we're not happy with that decision later, to have the faith in ourselves to say, I can change it. So whether buying this house was quote right, quote wrong, whatever, let her go. She has the skills that I gave her. She built on her own. Let them figure it out. If the house is too much or too much work, they'll see what they can do. It's not the end of the world if somebody makes a decision. That's what the kids are afraid of, the young people I coach. What if I do this and it's wrong? What if? And then I ask them back, what if? Life is, we can't know unless you are clairvoyant, right? Unless you have the ability to know ahead of time, and God bless you if you do, you can't know. You can only do and learn.
And that's the beautiful thing is, like, if you have a kid in sports and you have a really good coach, I don't know how your kids were, but my son has a really good wrestling coach who happens to be the football coach, who happens to be his gym teacher. So he's got a lot going on. And he's seen my son's progress from freshman year. Now he's a sophomore, anticipatory for junior. And it's the progress that my son has made, and everybody else that he's coached through the years. So you watch these kids come in and they struggle. I mean, and then to watch them become young men and women, and knowing that it's like, I don't know if that's going to work. And that's all you have to say. Mm-hmm. And then they have to figure out if it's going to work or not.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's not bad parenting. I mean, my parents did that to us, and there were a lot of hard way lessons.
Yeah. It's hard for a lot of us as parents to watch. It's hard for you to watch. It's hard for all of us when we see them going into a situation where we really think something bad might happen. I don't know what bad is, the gamut. We want to protect them. I mean, isn't that loving that we want to protect our young people? It's understandable, but learning about how far you could or should go is where the line is. Everybody's line is different. And understanding that they're going to be okay. Because when we get really nervous that they're going to make the wrong decision, and we convey that to them, they hear, she doesn't think that I can do it. So then they start to doubt themselves. It's just a whole gamut, that goes around. However, we as parents, that's why we need to get together. We need people who we could work with, because I'm saying to her, my daughter, okay, you do this. I believe in you. And I do. I don't know. Let's see what happens. But when I'm feeling upset or nervous, then I find other people who I can vent to. Oh my gosh, I can't believe she. We need that. We all need people to vent to. So it's okay to be upset about it. It's okay not to want to see our kids hurt. But learning to be able to care for ourselves so we can find people and ways that we can find peace to help us move through these things. That's the key.
That's the key. So, in talking about peace, what brings you peace, Eileen?
What brings me peace? I was thinking about this before. Once somebody asked me, probably a good 20 years ago, what do you want? And I said, I just want to be happy. That's all I want. I want to be happy. And the person asked me, well, what does happy mean? And I was like, ooh, what does happy mean? My answer is what makes me feel happy, what brings me, to that place is to feel peace and content. So, to go further, what is content? Content for me means that all is good and safe in my world, believing that, using that as my mantra, and giving myself that belief that regardless of whatever's happening, everything's going to be okay. And the other thing that brings me peace is connection. When I feel connected to the people who are part of my world, it gives me a safety. It gives me a feeling of, okay, that person gets me. I get them. There's a safety in that. I could be there for them. They can be there for me. I'm not alone. And I would say those are the things that bring me peace.
Now, would you say that those are things that would also bring your clients peace?
Absolutely. I never want to put that onto somebody else. But when I go through, one of the things that I do with my clients is we go through a list of values together. So when I ask people, what are your values? We often give the similar answers, love and peace and things of that nature, family, which are all great. But I want to know what my client really thinks. I want to know what makes them tick. I want to know what makes them so excited. I want to know what pisses them off. I want to know what really means the most to you. So I share 3 pages of adjectives, and I have them go through them and number them. And then we narrow them down from 5 to 7 of their top. And then I ask them what those words mean to them. So like I said, shared with you, connection is one of my values. And I've had several clients tell me that as well. And I ask them, when you're feeling connected to somebody, what does that make you feel? And of course, initially I get the happy, good. And I said, no, I'm your life coach. Come on here. Let's go. Give me another word. And they think about it. And a lot of them tell me content, peace, feel proud, and that's one of the things that helps them feel better in their own skin is
And
by
that's
knowing what's most important to them.
That's very important because that age, it's very important to feel comfortable in your own skin.
In any age, right?
It is, but that's a really hard age.
It sure is. It sure is.
It's like at my age now, I can say I'm content, but I could not say that at 18, 19, 20. I don't
Me
think I
too.
could be content until mid-30s.
I don't think I hit it until my low 40s,
Oh,
but yeah, it takes a while to be able to get to that point. And I tell my clients, I said, listen, I'm in my 50s now. I said, I'm not expecting you to be me. But what I'm telling you is that by understanding yourself now, by knowing what means most to you now, you're way ahead of the game, way ahead of the game, because it gives you the awareness that you need to be able to choose what you want to do. So when you have an argument with somebody and it really upsets you and you get really mad, you could stay mad and then, or you can ask yourself, why am I so mad? What? Oh, you know what? I really have a strong belief in respect. And that person just told me and acted in a way that was disrespectful, told me what I felt wasn't right. Oh, respect is important to me. I felt disrespected. That's why I'm so pissed off. Okay, so respect is, I need to look to be around people where I feel respected. I need to go to a job where I could feel more respected. I want to be in a relationship with somebody where I could feel respected. So that's how you could use your values to be able to go around in that circle, to be able to help yourself make choices so you don't feel like you're stuck. More like, instead of saying, I can never do this, to say, okay, you know what? I get to pick how I want to be, and there's nothing like knowing that the options are there and that you're not stuck.
beautiful. So you feel that peace is a choice.
I do. I do feel that peace is a choice. I think it takes work to get there. And I think it's a forever work. So I say I've been feeling peaceful since I was in my 40s, but life happens. My husband lost his job a few months ago. I didn't feel so peaceful. So I had to go to my toolbox, which is something I'll mention later, to go through it to say, what can I do to help bring me peace? Because I wasn't feeling so peaceful. We're learning. This is going to go on forever. People are like trees. We're either growing, or we're no longer alive. So I believe that growth goes on forever.
That's an awesome analogy.
It was given to me. I didn't make that one up. So that was given to me by the program that I went to called IPEC, International Professional Excellence in Coaching. I guess I'm plugging my program, but they're the ones who taught that to me.
Beautiful. So, Eileen, how do you bring peace to others?
So like I was sharing with you before, I bring peace to others by helping them see what's great about them, helping pull out people's positive traits, their strengths, and being truthful with them in doing that. I've had a client, one of my first ones, and I started to tell him what I saw, and he cried. He said, nobody's ever said that to me before. Not everybody's parents are like me and you, not everybody has the ability to put those things into words. But when they see their own strengths and then you prove it to them and they can prove it to themselves, they feel so much better. So I grew up without a lot of confidence. I was bullied as a child. I was bullied by teachers and by my parents because that was more old school in those days. So I had very little self-esteem. And I was negative, which makes people giggle now because I'm very positive, but I was very negative. And I know what it feels like to be tough on yourself. And I know how different life can be when you start to believe in yourself. So being able to help other people learn to believe in themselves is a way that I give the gift for them to be able to gain peace.
I love that.
Thank you.
I can echo a lot. I wasn't bullied by teachers, but I can definitely echo a lot of that. And it does, take some clawing and scraping to pull yourself up whatever mountain or hill to where you are now. And that's beautiful because it's pay it forward time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thanks.
And when you're working with young people and you want to bring them peace and you're met with resistance because let's face it, you're probably met with less resistance than the parents because we always buck our parents. What do you know? I know, when we're young, we know it all.
Yeah.
Unless we're told by someone else.
I can see that now. My son says that he doesn't know how I survived on this earth for 30 years without him. I'm like, isn't it a miracle that I was able to do that?
I know. So how do you help someone initially? Because a lot of kids are probably coming to you either because mom's making them or they're just at a loss. They don't know what else to do. It's like, I'll try this. And they're like hands in the air, or I'm here because my mom said I need to be here kind of mentality. So you're probably meeting resistance first. So how do you kind of put them at ease and bring them into a peaceful state for coaching?
One thing I have to point out before I come to some type of an answer is that there's a big difference between coaching and therapy.
Yes.
So when you go to a therapist, typically there's definitely override, but when it comes to therapy, you go to therapy because you need to dig deep to figure out why you feel the way you do. And you may need to go back in the past and dig through that to bring out old feelings, to do healing, to really do a lot of healing, to get you to a place where you feel and you could say, all right, you know what? I'm okay. I get the why, but now I need to know what to do. I don't know what to do. I'm 18 years old. I know I don't want to go to college, but I'm not really sure what I want to do. I don't even know who I am. And my parents are saying this and everybody's questioning me that. And I can't stand the feeling of, so what are you going to do next? And it makes them get sick feeling in their tummies, but they feel okay. They feel depressed because they don't know what they want to do. And they may feel anxious because they're, all that unknown. But it's different than being clinically depressed or clinically anxious. So therefore, those people who come to me for coaching have to be ready for coaching. So if a parent recommends their young person come to me, I say, fabulous, we talk. I said, but then I need to talk to your young person. I need to see, Janice, whether they're ready for coaching. So if I hear, no, I'm ready, because I'll sell them. You got to work. You got to work to do this. This is hard. It's not easy. But there's work involved. If you're not able to, the more work you put into it, the more you'll get out of it. So if I have somebody coming to me and they're willing to talk to me, but they're only doing it because their parents tell them to, and they're like, well, this, that, I don't take them on. So that I have to point out. I have, however, had young people who come anyway, tell me they want to do work. And then, I find out afterwards, you know what? They say, I wasn't really into this before, but now I am. Now I get it. Because they don't want to feel like somebody's telling them they're broken. They don't want to feel like somebody's telling them, they're doing all this wrong. They don't want to feel like they're disappointing us. That's one of the biggest things that the young people tell me. That brings a lot of the emotion. They don't want to disappoint us as parents. And they also don't want to feel judged. So that's why I've had my young people both go to therapists and one life coach, 2 therapists, because I'm mom. So I want to see my kids do well. I have an agenda. And I'm not sorry for that. I love them. I have an agenda.
I'm glad I'm not the other one with an agenda.
Right? We have an agenda. We have something we want to see. And that's okay. But my kids are not going to tell me how they're feeling about certain things because they don't want to feel judged if it's not the same agenda that I have. That's why having our young people go to somebody else, they feel safe with me, which I'm grateful that I'm able to give them the opportunity to feel that comfort, and they feel like they can talk to me. So what it takes in the beginning is just a lot of validation and acknowledgement, listening, hearing what they're having to say without interrupting. And it's hard for me because I do that. But the best type of listening is hearing what they're saying and then going underneath. So my mom is so annoying. She keeps opening and closing my door, and I ask her to knock and she doesn't listen. So that's where it goes back to what I said before. Most likely, what does it make you feel, I ask, when they walk in the room? And the feeling, whether it's disrespect or lack of privacy or whatever it is, that's what they're looking for, right? So I have to go underneath to be able to ask questions to help them learn to understand themselves. And that's what coaching does. Coaching helps them understand themselves. So in order for them to feel safe with me, I acknowledge them. I tell them, I hear what you're saying. And then I don't blame you for feeling that way. I wouldn't want my mom to walk in my room today without knocking. That wouldn't make me feel good either. So what I'm hearing you say is that it feels disrespectful. You don't feel like you're getting the privacy. Is that right? So by talking to them that way, it gives them the feeling, okay, this woman gets it. She gets what I'm saying. And if they say no, then I say, okay, please help me understand. Tell me more. I'm curious to learn more. No judgment. Tell me more so I can understand. So I think that's how I would, help them feel more comfortable and bring themselves out. And we can all do that. You don't have to be a coach to learn to acknowledge and validate. By listening, repeating back to what you hear them say, Mom, I'm telling you, I really can't stand when you come into my room. And if the mom turns, whoever it is, and says, okay, I hear what you're saying. You don't like it when I walk in your room and it makes you feel whatever you feel. Yes. And then the mom can validate that. Well, I don't like it when people talk, get in the way of my my privacy either. When you do that with your young person, you right there have their attention because you're showing them that you get it. It doesn't work overnight, but you keep doing more of that. That's a real great way to open up communication with your young people.
Wonderful. And on the life coaching journey, not to be confused with therapy, which I did, I apologize.
Live and learn, right?
So on their coaching journey, and they go step by step, and you build this camaraderie and this nice rapport with each other, do you find it's easier to get into peaceful states with your clients as you're helping them on their journey to what's next in life?
Definitely. I mean, sometimes it gets overwhelming, or they're overwhelmed when they talk to me, and they need to be centered. They need to feel centering. And I ask them, would you be willing to work with me to help you feel centered? So this way you can feel more peace. And then we can get back to doing what you wanted to do. Because face it, I mean, I'm not a therapist. I'm not qualified to do anything like that. But when you talk about things, it brings issues up. That stuff comes floating to the surface, and it could be overwhelming. It can make you feel in a place where you can't think straight. So that's when a lot of times you need to be centered. So what I do with them is I ask them to close their eyes and I help them relax. We go through the parts of their bodies and tell them to relax and breathe in and breathe out and all that. And when they're done, I ask them how they feel and they tell me relaxed, calm, centered, peaceful. And when you do that, then you can think more with your heart rather than just your head. Your head has thoughts that ramble on and on and on and on. But this way, when you get to your heart, that's the soul. That's the real part. That's where you, whoever you is, that's where you exist here. This is the ego. It just goes all day long.
Yes, all day long. That's like when I train people in meditation, I let them know that this is going to keep going. You just have to acknowledge the thought and let it pass. Acknowledge the
And
thought
it's tricky.
I didn't say it was easy. I just said what you need to do. I mean,
It's tricky.
just the other morning, I was in meditation and I was chanting and I was thinking about all the things. Laundry. Laundry is like the bane of adult existence. I'm sorry. It is. But it was a thought that wouldn't go away. And I just remember thinking, you need to go away. So even now, after years of meditation and learning and knowing how to meditate, it's still not necessarily easy. And we acknowledge this because the brain is go, 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 go. You have to get to that, like you said, the heart space and acknowledge that I live here, not here.
Yeah. I still find that personally challenging. It's, with the way the world is today, our minds are racing. And when that becomes the dominant area, I find for myself, that's when my anxiety pops in, just being truthful. When I let my mind take over, that's when I start to feel nervous in my own right. And I have to pull through my toolbox. What helps calm me? And I ask young people when they get that way, what do you do for yourself when you feel nervous, when you feel anxious? What helps you relax? And they tell me things like reading, going for a run, working out, taking a nap, drawing, playing an instrument. Oh, nature, that's a big one. So I tell them we're going to build, a virtual toolbox that you will put all those ideas and thoughts in there. So that when you get to a place where you just don't feel centered, where you feel overwhelmed, know that you have this right here for you, where you can go in there and take out those pieces that help you feel at peace. So then you can function in a way that you want to function. Because humans are humans. We're going to be upset no matter what. Janice and I can talk to you all day long. People are going to be upset. It's a human emotion. But we can choose how we respond to that emotion. We can choose, I want to stay here and I want to feel stressed a little longer. You can say, what was me? Do nothing. You can be angry about it. You can say, okay, I'm going to rationalize it. You can help somebody else. You can do it as a win-win scenario, or you can look up to a bigger source if you so choose to help you. But there's all the ways that you can choose how to respond to that. And when you do it by choice, again, back to what we said before, it brings a lot of peace because you know that you're in control.
Absolutely. And speaking of toolboxes, and you recently brought up the scenario of your husband had lost his position and you didn't feel so at peace. So what did you pull out of your toolbox that maybe we should have in our toolboxes?
What did I pull out? I vented a lot. So if you can't tell from this interview, I like to talk. So when I talk, it helps release a lot of that energy, that the negativity, the energy that I have, because I have a lot of it. So when I talk and when I vent, I purposely do it with people who want to listen, who don't feel like, oh, she's going on and on, because I know now who the people are that I can go to. So a lot of that venting works. When I get to a place where things are really tough, breathing. I remember people used to say that to me years ago and I'd say, yeah. But when you
It's so important.
I had that in my 20s. I was in with a therapist and the therapist told me to meditate. And in those days I didn't get it. And I was like, really? Yes, is what I would say now. And, and Janice can teach you all about that. But When you breathe, and when you go through that process, everything slows down. And when everything slows down, then I'm more in control, and then I can pick where I want to go. So for me, being in nature, I like birds. I like the moon. I like
Awesome.
flowers. Oh, moon. I'm such a weirdo when it comes to the moon. I live in an area where there's more hills. So my kids all, they'll call me, Mom, you got to go check out the moon. So there I am, the weirdo. I get in my car and I drive to where the moon is. Yes, I'm admitting it to you.
No, I have to
Love
take
the moon.
pictures every full moon. And when I can't see the full moon because of clouds, I get really ticked off. My boyfriend will tell you. I'll go to his place and he's closer to the water and he's like, "Where'd you go?" Oh, and I'm out there with my
Moon.
camera taking pictures of the full moon. So, yes.
Especially when it first comes up and has that on the horizon and has that big yellow. I get
Oh,
so
yeah.
excited. But these are the things that give me peace. The moon, I talk to the moon. And the birds, labeling the birds. I have a bird feeder and I like to listen to the songs and try to remember which bird it is. And I love flowers and colors. And, you can see behind me with all my flowers and colors and things. I love all that. So when I do things like that, that's in touch with me, who Eileen is, who I am. And it gives me the safety and feeling of it's going to be okay. I'm going to be okay.
In feeling peaceful makes you feel safe. You'd say yes? Or the other way around?
I think it might be the other way around. So let me think about that. I feel safe, then I feel at peace. When I feel at peace and I feel safe. No, I think it's when I feel at peace, then I feel safe. Yeah.
Agree. I would agree. Because, like you said, you're going back into yourself. You're like, I'm here. I am present. And when you are here and present, it's like, okay, I'm safe. Everything is going well. I totally understand that.
Yeah.
That is beautiful. And for young people who might be listening, who would want a life coach or would be interested in how can this help me, what would you advise them?
Well, I would first of all tell them that you don't have to be broken to go to a life coach. I have a life coach. I told you I met her in the beginning. When I get to a place where I feel like my head is taking over and not my heart, and I'm having trouble sorting through, I give her a call. Can we have a session? And she helps work me through it to go back to it. Anyone can benefit from a life coach. You don't, like I said, have to be broken. You don't have to have anything wrong with you. Where I work with people is the young people who feel like they're stuck, who feel like they're not sure what to do, who may feel overwhelmed and have issues with socializing, especially after COVID. A lot of young people, and probably grown-ups as well, are having trouble going back into doing more, being more social. Or they go to college, they did it online and it didn't work for them. So now they're not doing anything and they don't know what to do. And, there are places where we just feel in an impasse and we feel stuck. And what I do is I help them understand themselves. So if you're at a place where you feel like I get it, I understand the why, but I don't know how to move forward. I don't know where to go first. Those are the people who I do a really, great job with helping them understand themselves. And then from there, what we do is we learn more about our thoughts. So like we were saying before, our thoughts kind of take over. But if you could start to recognize the thought patterns, then you could see them to change them. So what do I mean? So for example, you send somebody a text and they don't respond. The menagerie of thoughts that goes on in all of our minds, I don't care how old you are. Did I say something that tipped them off? Yesterday when I was talking about something, maybe I insulted them. Or, are they mad? Are they this? Are they that? When you have no idea what's really going on, so you have to say, oh, I'm having this kind of a thought. What do I need to do to challenge it, to find out if it's right or wrong? I could ask them, but when you take yourself from a place of feeling like I'm screwed to wait, let me see what I can do to get through this. So understanding their thought patterns, understanding that a lot of times we believe in things to be true where they may not necessarily be true. And it happens a lot. Where, again, we believe things to be a certain way without challenging them. And those thoughts hold us back. So when I first started going through my coaching program, before I was a coach, I was a teacher. And I worked with little ones, actually. So when I started going through my coaching program and they said, okay, we're going to teach you about the business, my head went, what? I don't know anything about business. I barely know how to write a check. Not that young people write checks so much anymore. They make fun of me for that. But I knew nothing about business. So I actually had said to myself, I guess I can't do this. And then I went, ooh, I'm doing that. Oh, so what do I do? What am I teaching people? I got to challenge that. So how true is it that I can't do business? And I thought, and I'm like, I guess I could. And then the what if started. Well, what if it's too hard? I'm like, well, I can get help. How can I learn more? I could take a class. And I started challenging it. And I went, wow, man, this shit really works. So I was like, wow, I put my own self in that situation where I had a thought pattern that could prevent me from moving forward in my life. And then once I learned to recognize those thoughts, then I have the power to challenge them. So I work with my clients to help understand these thoughts and learn how to challenge them. And then from there, if they choose, we try to set up a outline for them where they see themselves a year from now. And it doesn't have to be exact. Just imagine, where do you see yourself a year from now? 6 months. I always wanted to go to law school, but I never thought I could. Challenge the thoughts that get in the way and then set something up. What would you need to do? Well, I would have to apply by this point. I'd have to learn from this at that point. And then I help hold them accountable. So, okay, you said you're going to call your friend on Wednesday. Can I check in with you? Absolutely. So I text them. How did it go? So that whole accountability piece gives them the ability to motivate themselves to move forward. And that's how we do it. I do a 3-month program that works like that to help them get on track.
That's
Did I answer your question?
You did.
Okay, good.
You did. And so a lot of the challenges I would say that you help young people overcome are the thoughts and then bringing them to a place of peace. And you bring them to peace, this is just my observation, by helping them find out who they are and holding them accountable for it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. This way they can feel being content and peaceful. They can feel proud of themselves. They could feel more confident and feel excited about life rather than feeling the dread. And what could be more peaceful than that? Enjoying your life, knowing that we are meant to be here to enjoy, and that when things are tough, that we have the ability to get through it, no matter what it is. They say, what if I don't get into the school that I want to get into? And I said, well, what if you don't get into school? I can't think about that. Okay, you don't have to think about that now, but in later, when you can, think about what's the worst that can happen. Well, I'd be really upset. And then what would you do? Oh, I would apply to new schools. Yeah. You can get through this. It doesn't feel good, but you can learn to go back to that toolbox and pull out taking the shower, going for the run, talking to people. You know what to do to help yourself. You can get through it.
Absolutely. We definitely can. And I want to recommend, if you have not seen this, because you echo in such a beautiful way. Are you familiar with Brene Brown?
Yes.
Have you seen The Call to Courage? Have you watched that? You
a couple of
echo
books.
that. Yes. I just got one of her books yesterday and started reading it this morning because I get up at 5. I'm not.
My favorite thing that she says, which I share with my clients, you can do hard things. And that's what Brene Brown always says. You know what? You can do hard things. And if you question it, I ask my client, okay, think about a time where you did something really hard. And they do. Back when I was in high school, and they'll tell me a whole story. And I'm like, well, I didn't make that up. I said, you're sharing with me. So you're already proving that you can do hard things. Just saying, I didn't tell you that. You told me. you know? So when she says that, that's a big deal.
It's a big deal. So I am so grateful to you, Eileen, for coming on this evening and talking about peace and how to help young people find peace in this chaotic world we are currently residing in.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. This is really great. And, we need more people like you out there who really are giving people the opportunity to learn how to feel contentment and peace in life, because I really think that's the bottom line.
I agree. Thank you. We're going to wrap up the show. 1 second. I'm going to stick Eileen in the green room for a second. I want to thank everybody who has popped in and out tonight. I want to thank anybody who's currently watching. If this brought you peace, or if you want to be alerted to any upcoming guests on the show, please hit the like, subscribe, and notify buttons. And I thank you all for joining us this evening, and have a great night.